Genius Nation, welcome to a brand new day. Welcome to the Daily Genius. I am Dr. Will. Super excited that you are here with us on this magnificent, terrific Thursday, wherever you are in the world. I hope your day is starting off blessed and prosperous. Let's get into it. Listen, Nation, we're in a brand new year, fourth day of a brand new year, and I have a question for you. I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Usually at the beginning of the year, we write down all these goals. We write down all these changes that we want to make. We write down all these results that we want. But here's the question that I have for you. Out of everything you've written down and everything that you want, the question that I have for you is, how bad do you want it? That's what it all boils down to in this life that we live. How bad do you want it? And if you really want it, there's two things. There's two things that have to be preeminent in your mind. If you really want it, the changes that you're talking about, the results that you're talking about, if you really, really want it, it's two things you got to consider if you want these results. Number one, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? You want that new body? You want that new body? You want that new physique? What are you willing to do? You want to write that book? You want to write that book? How many days, how many hours are you willing to commit to writing that book? You want to grow your business? You want to get promoted? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to do to break out of the average, to break out of the mundane? What are you willing to do to see the changes that you want to see in your life? What are you willing to do? Because see, here's the thing that you have to understand. If you want to live an extraordinary life, if you want to live a non-average life, then you have to do non-average things. You have to start doing extraordinary things. And here's what I found out in life. You know, back when I was in the military, I found out this principle that has served me so well. When I was in the military, I realized to stand out, it wasn't a whole lot that I had to do. It was just a couple of little things that I had to adjust in my behavior. For instance, it's just like we would have a formation where you would have to show up before you came to work. We would have a formation. Everybody would have to join up and we would have a formation. And let's just say formation was at 8 o'clock. Let's say formation was at 8 o'clock. What I realized was to stand out from all of my peers, I just had to show up 10 minutes early. Not an hour early, not 30 minutes early, just 10 minutes earlier. Why? Because most people, when formation started at 8 o'clock, most people would show up 2 minutes till, 1 minute till, just in the nick of time, right? Just in the nick of time. By me showing up 10 minutes earlier, I would usually be one of few individuals that showed up. But what I was displaying in that 10 minutes was leadership behavior, because leaders show up early. Leaders don't just show up just in the nick of time. And so what would happen is, because I showed up early, my supervisors, they started to notice me. And because I showed up early, occasionally they would call me over. And they would say, hey, I need you to go to battalion. I need you to go to the battalion and go pick up this document or go drop this off. And so they begin to give me these little responsibilities. And guess what? Over time, and it didn't take that much time, when it came to get promoted, my name was always in the bucket. My name was always in the hat. So I literally went from being a private to being a non-commissioned officer within 2 years. What we had a terminology, we call that fast tracking. In the military, we call that fast tracking. So I went from being a private, an E1, to being an E5 within 2 years. Because this simple adjustment, I just realized there was a couple of adjustments that I needed to make, right? Show up early, have my uniform looking good. Another principle that my leader had taught me was you always want to operate 2 ranks above. So whatever your rank was, you wanted to operate 2 ranks above. And so I was willing to operate 2 ranks above. And so when people would see me, my uniform was immaculate, my boots were shined, and I always came in early. So much so that people would mistake me, even when I was a private, they would mistake me for being an NCO already. Why? Because I already looked the part. I already looked the part. And so because I made those few adjustments, I stood out from the crowd. So what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do to stand out? What adjustments do you need to make? The second thing that you need to consider is what sacrifices are you willing to make? What sacrifices? You want this amazing life. You want to be a 6-figure earner, a 7-figure earner. You want to move into the upper echelon of earners. You want to be a part of the 20%, a part of the 10%. What are you willing to sacrifice? Because once again, you're not going to be able to play the game like everybody else. What are you willing? If you look at athletes and you see the greatest of the greatest, once again, they're different. They show up early. They work harder than everybody else. And they always talk about the sacrifice. Not going to be able to go to everybody's party. Not going to be able to watch every television show. So what are you willing to sacrifice? As we look at the beginning of this year, for December the 31st, 2024, for you to come to December the 31st, 2024, and say, this was a championship year for me, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to sacrifice? See, when I look at the place that I am right now today, it took a great sacrifice. It took a great sacrifice. I had to pack up my family. We had to leave Germany. We had to come to a state that we have never came to before. Didn't have any connections here. We had to sacrifice a whole lot to get to where I am today. And so when people see me today being named one of the top 10 motivational speakers, having successful companies, it didn't just come because I'm a nice guy. It came because I've made huge sacrifices. I've made huge sacrifices. When everybody else was playing around, I was writing books. I was writing 50 books. I had to sacrifice going to all the parties, hanging out, staying up late, waking up early. I had to sacrifice. And so these 2 things that we want to look at, what are you willing to do? What adjustments do you need to make? What adjustments do you need to make? And what are you willing to sacrifice? If you want to go to that next level, it's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something. And so what are you willing to sacrifice to get to that next level? So how bad do you really want it? How bad do you really want it? I can always tell when I'm coaching people, and we always start off, man, what do you want? What's the win for you? What's the championship for you? And I can always tell if they're going to achieve it by the adjustments that they make, by the sacrifices that they implement. You think you're going to get to the next level doing the same thing you did to get to this level? No. At every level, there's a higher level of commitment. There's a higher level of sacrifice. Every time you want to go higher, there's going to be a higher level of commitment and a higher level of sacrifice. At every level, you got to give up something that's comfortable on this level to get to the next level. Because what got you here is not going to get you there. The thinking that got you here is not going to get you there. The actions that got you here are not the actions that are going to get you there. And so what are you willing to do? What information are you willing to learn? What new skill are you willing to develop so you can go to the next level? What relationships are you willing to mature and cultivate so you can go? How uncomfortable are you willing to be? Right? You could be the woman at this level, but now you want to go to the next level. So that means you go to the bottom of that next highest level. See, right here, you're at the top, but to go to the next level, you get to the next level, you're at the bottom of that top. Are you willing to do that? Or are you just comfortable where you are? Because if you really want to get to the next level, how bad do you want that next level? Then what adjustments and sacrifices are you willing to endure? And so I want you to think about that as we enter this new year. Just don't be putting down a whole lot of stuff. Don't be writing vision boards. Because see, when people talk to me about a vision board, I love vision boards. But you know what I love more than a vision board is a reality board. How much stuff on that vision board is going to cross over to the reality board? See, I don't want you to just have a vision board. I want you to have a reality board. And so everything that you see on that vision board, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice so you can see it on your reality board? So that house, that car, those trips that you want, that lifestyle that you want, if you want that to become a reality, what adjustments, what sacrifices need to be made? And so I want you to think about that. Give it some serious thought. Look at your vision board, look at your goals, and really analyze and ask yourself, do I really want that? Everything that you've written down, everything that's on your vision board. I'm not talking about, oh, it would be nice to have it if I can get, no. Do you actually really want it? And how bad do you want it? And see if it stays on your list, because you may not be willing to make the adjustment. You may not be willing to make the sacrifice. And that's okay as well. But I want you to be truthful with yourself. I don't want you to lie to yourself. I want you to look at it and say, yeah, I really want this. And then be able to write down the 2 or 3 adjustments you're going to make. Write down the 2 or 3 sacrifices. If I'm going to go back to school and get my degree, or go to school and get that advanced degree, man, something has to give. What are you willing to give? Something has to give. And go back and write that down. Okay, if I'm going to go back to school, it's going to require this amount of time. That means I'm going to have to sacrifice this. I'm going to have to let this go. I'm not going to be able to be a part of this organization in this season of my life. Or I'm not going to be able to give attention, because we only get 24 hours a day, 168 hours a week, 8,760 hours a year. You're not getting more time. So you got to learn how to manage the time you already have. And you can't do it all, right? You can't do it all. So something has to get sacrificed. Something has to be on the chopping block. Something has to be on the chopping block. And so you got to get real serious about that. So that's what I want you to think about, nation, this week. How bad do I really want it? And what adjustments am I going to make? What sacrifices am I going to make? All right. Go out there today and have an amazing day. I'll see you right back here inside the nation on tomorrow. Before we get out of here, I want to remind everybody we have Master the Mic coming up here live in Phoenix. Listen, if you're ready to take your brand and your business to the next level, if you're ready for your bank account to reflect your brilliance, then you need to get to master the mic so you can learn how to communicate your value, so you can learn how to present yourself in an elevated way through communication, through the art of speaking. Speaking is one of the most lucrative industries out there. But not only is it one of the most lucrative industries out there, it's one of the best ways to get your message out there. It's one of the best ways to brand yourself. It's one of the best ways to market yourself, the power of speaking. And so this is not just for those that want to be professional speakers. Master the Mic is for anybody that wants to elevate their brand, elevate their business, and have their bank account match their brilliance. All right, guys, I would love to see you here in Phoenix, January 26th through the 28th. All right, go out there, have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you later.